Dr. Darby Campbell here. Just want to go over a key concept of longevity mode training, what happens when we're injured, and comparing that to the weekend warrior. So on this scale over here, we have a rated perceived effort. And then this dash line up here indicates like a high risk zone, and it is relative. You'll notice that the weekend warrior is in a high risk zone at a lower effort level. That's just because they don't have this strong foundation. And so what is a strong foundation? Well, physical training should prepare you for life. Unless you're like a professional athlete, you're training to live and be able to maintain and grow your physical capabilities and avoid injury at all costs. Okay. And so to do that well, we need to have mobility in our training load. We need to have strength training. We need to have skill set development, and we need to be developing our endurance, not just cardiovascular endurance, but endurance to maintain muscular strength and stamina. Because when we are developing this foundation, often our kind of effort is kind of 7 and below because we're working on all these things in a broadened way. And then 15% of the time, we're kind of pushing that horizon a little bit. And only 5% are we really, really trying to test ourselves. Okay. And for those competitive athletes, good coaches will tell you this, leave it to competition to go from 9 to 10. You don't need to train into that, because even when you have a strong foundation, when you are pushing that hard, your relative risk for injury is still higher. And so on a training load, we want to be working within kind of a moderate to low risk, and because this is where we're going to get the most benefit versus and the lowest cost. Okay. And so we don't want to be developing all of these. Compare that to the weekend warrior, where they don't have that foundation of mobility, that strength, the skill, the endurance. And maybe they're coming back to sport and they're acting like they did back in high school when they did have this. And so when they are pushing at 7, they just because they don't have that foundation, they may be lacking that mobility or lacking that muscular endurance to maintain kind of stable joints over a period of time. And then relative wise, they're playing often sports and different things like that where they're pushing their body as hard as they can. And so 40% of their active time is in the high risk zone. And so it's not a matter of if, but just when these people get hurt. I had a patient, and he was just returning to basketball after a long period of time, and he really hadn't done a lot of athletic things. And he just blew up his knee just because he wasn't even trying that hard, but he just didn't have the foundation to push as hard as he was pushing. But even on a relative effort scale, he wasn't pushing that hard. And so we do have to have that strong foundation. Okay. So what happens after injury? Well, what happens is, let me get my little eraser here. Here we go. What happens after injury is we damage tissue. Okay. And then so that tissue, our pyramid is kind of like this because we damage that tissue that was maintaining us now. And so now what we're going to be doing is we are going to be pushing that boundary a little bit, but still this is highly controlled. But we're going to be spending more time and building and pushing that horizon again. And so we're going to be probably pushing that horizon 20% of the time. And then now we're down here with 75%. And we have to be rebuilding all of these, the mobility, the strength, the skill set, because sometimes when you damage that knee or ankle or even your low back, you have to relearn how to move. And what this was revealed is sometimes you had a lack of skill, you had a lack of coordination, and that's what kind of created this injury environment in the first place. So now's your chance to build back taller and better. Okay. And so now, because we're spending a little bit more time in here, we are going to regrow this pyramid because you still have a base here. It's not totally gone. You are going to grow back up relatively quickly, but you do have to take the time. And now kind of the 7 is your new peak, but just look for that peak to kind of going back up again. And so you're going to be spending a lot of your time in the 5, 6 on effort zone. I had a female kind of patient and firefighter friend, and she was kind of a little embarrassed of her workout that she was doing for rehab. I'm like, no, that's great. Just because you lost some like tissue damage there. So you have to build it up with much lighter than you think. And I'm glad she's going to good PT that's doing that for her. And so this is how we can recover after injury, and just give yourself some patience and you'll be back up at the top feeling good again, maybe even better than before. And then with that longevity mode, you also want to be taking care of yourself adjustment wise, getting good food and good nutrition in your body. Make sure you're getting good rest too, and you're going to watch that pyramid start to grow again. Looking forward to serving you at that next visit. Bye for now.